I'm Bruce Gordon, author of the book The Spirit of Attack. In the 1960s, the F-106 and the F-4 were America's premier fighters. They really didn't compete. The F-106 was designed as a high-altitude, fast fighter to intercept bombers, and the F-4 was an all-purpose aircraft that could carry a lot of bombs. As the Vietnam War heated up, America's F-4s were having a lot of trouble with North Vietnam's MiG-21s. Several people and organizations, such as the Air Force Academy and the famous John Boyd, developed the energy maneuverability concept. A computer could analyze fighters and, depending on their wing loading and power at different altitudes, could determine which fighters were best in what situations and the best maneuvers for the fighters to do to counter a different airplane. The fighter weapons schools wanted an American aircraft to practice their maneuvers against, so they asked the computers that, based on energy and maneuverability, which American aircraft was most like the MiG-21. Computer analysis showed that the F-106 was most like the MiG-21, so the Air Force sent several F-106s out to the fighter weapons school, where we quickly showed that the F-106 could outmaneuver the F-4s. The Air Force quickly modified our F-106s for aerial refueling and taught our fighter pilots aerial combat maneuvering. Let's compare the two aircraft. The F-106 had one 24,500-pound thrust engine with a large delta wing, which gave it a light wing loading of only 52 pounds per square foot. We could go Mach 2 with our sleek drop tanks. We had a 700 nautical mile combat radius, the distance we could go, fight for 5 minutes, and return to base. The F-4 had two engines with 35,690 pounds of thrust. That's 46% more power than the F-106. But it was heavy. It had a wing loading of 78 pounds per square foot compared to the 52 for the F-106. With that heavy weight and two engines, it had a short combat radius of only 367 nautical miles compared to 700 nautical miles for the F-106. The F-106 carried its missiles internally. It had high-speed pneumatically operated doors that slapped open to fire the missiles and then slammed shut immediately afterwards, giving a very sleek aerodynamic configuration. The F-4 carried its missiles on pylons under the wings. This meant it had high drag. This is parasite drag, and the drag increases by the square of the speed, so it limits the top speed of the F-4. Flight tests showed that the F-4 was slightly faster than the F-106, but that was with clean aircraft. You've got to carry weapons or there's no reason to go fast. How fast would the F-4 go with all those weapons hanging under it? How about a drag race in a combat configuration? In 1969, I was flying F-106s out of Osan Air Base in South Korea. One day, the order came, scramble. When we were airborne, my wingman and I were given unusual orders. We were to fly southeast and meet a tanker and top off with fuel. Then join two F-4s in a combat air patrol off the east coast of North Korea, protecting an electronic reconnaissance aircraft. We got our fuel from the tanker, joined the F-4s, and proceeded north in a combat formation looking for MiGs. The F-4s were leading, so we flew their headings and altitudes. They flew at 35,000 feet at 0.85 Mach. The F-106s would have flown higher and faster at 43,000 feet at 0.93 Mach. As we patrolled, the F-4 lead called for fuel checks. At first, they had much more fuel than we had, but soon our better fuel economy began to show. They were running low on fuel while we still had plenty. Finally, they had to go back to the tanker for more fuel, and we went back with them. We all topped off and returned to continue the combat air patrol. When the mission was over, we were cleared to go home, and we joined the F-4s in close formation. Suddenly their leader said, "Let's go home, fast." They lit their afterburners and pushed over into a shallow dive to accelerate as fast as they could. Their powerful engines pushed them ahead of us about a half a mile. At about 1.3, their high drag became evident, and they couldn't accelerate ahead of us. We matched speeds at 1.3, Mach 1.4, Mach 1.5, we passed them. I came in low over their canopy so my shock wave would rattle their teeth. Mach 1.6, Mach 1.7, we left them far behind us. We could reach Mach 2 even with external drop tanks, and they obviously couldn't go that fast. Then, just to insult them, I pulled up and asked for clearance to cruise home at 45,000 feet because I knew they couldn't cruise that high. As we left the F-4s far behind, we had proven that the F-106 could cruise higher, faster, and farther than the F-4. With our lighter wing loading, we could outmaneuver them. And now we had proven that in a full combat configuration, the F-106 was faster than the F-4.